This is Crysis 2 Remastered. We're here on Xbox Series X taking a look at this actually great upgrade to the original experience. So if you had checked out Crysis Remastered, the first one, that was a very rough experience when it launched. It did improve and get fixed up. You can see that on the channel as well. But now at launch for Crysis 2 Remastered, we get a very smooth, stable, and great looking experience that is a lot of fun to play. So we're getting a dynamic 4K resolution at 60 FPS with HDR support. This is only the single player experience. The multiplayer aspect did not get carried forward with the new version of the game, the remastered standalone. The third game in the series is also available, but we're focusing on the second one in this particular, showcase of it. So yeah, it actually seems to run smoothly and it looks really, really good. I'm actually really fortunate to have been playing Crysis 2 and 3, like the old 360 versions through backwards compatibility, half a year ago. So I'm a little, kind of refreshed on the games, just in regards to understanding how they looked and how they ran. So it's kind of cool to be here taking a look at this one and seeing such a significant upgrade. So for Crysis 2, it's a little bit different from the first one. If you're familiar with that one, say, a lot of people probably played the remaster, it was their first Crysis game. So that one's a bit more open. It's not open world, but it's a bit more open than this one is. This is much more of a linear experience. You do get some little areas where you get, a bit of, I guess you could say ingenuity in what you do in them. So you'll move to these spots where it's like these are more open segments and it's like tactical options available. And you can kind of like run around and you can use a little bit of stealth, but the stealth really doesn't seem to quite work in this one, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you assassinate one guy, your cloak runs out, and it's like everybody knows where you are. And even if you run, say you go through a subway and you run out the other end, people know exactly where you are the whole time. They're like shooting through the walls and stuff. And it was kind of weird, but it was like, yeah, okay. So most scenes were just basically devolving into shootouts. So to start off, this one is a little bit different story-wise. This is following the events of the first game. Aliens have returned to a world ravaged by climate disasters. They are basically attacking the city of New York. It's a big assault. There's some weird things going on. You're paired up with this doctor. This doctor is kind of trying to figure out what's going on, or, well, the scientist type guy, I guess you could say. And you are going around the city kind of collecting, I guess, samples to a degree, figuring out what happened. And you're following the footsteps of, well, Prophet, a very successful Nanosuit user. And there's some intrigue around there as well that I'll let you discover yourself through the game. And basically you're going through these different areas with an upgraded Nanosuit 2.0. So you use stealth, armor, and power abilities in order to attack your opponents throughout the environment. So this is what makes it really interesting, is the suit dynamics. So you're in a firefight, you're getting hit, you're getting shot at. You can put on your armor, and your armor is going to allow you to take a little bit more damage than you normally would be able to take. And that's just kind of neat. But as you're using this armor, it is taking away your energy, so you constantly have to be able to handle your energy in the game. Same with sprinting. Sprinting will remove your energy. So you could have, like, say, let's put cloaking. Cloaking will remove your energy as well. So if you're running well cloaked, your armor, or well, your energy for your armor goes down even faster. And it's just really intriguing having these different dynamics at play as you see your kind of, you have to balance these things as you go into a conflict. You have your grenades, you have your different guns, you pick up lots of different weapons. You can also modify your armor in little ways as you get more like alien type armor, I guess. Alien type, like, biomaterial, I guess you could say. I think that's the easiest way to describe it. So you get these points, and then you can kind of like slightly augment things. But there's regular guns you pick up, different tools you can use, and a plethora of different ways that you can combat and fight with others in these play spaces. I would say story-wise, it's kind of intriguing. Like, it's very different from the first Crysis game. I think there's a little bit less mystery, if that makes sense. A little bit less surprise. Because the first game, I'm assuming you've probably played the first game if you're coming into the second one. And if you haven't, maybe check out that one before grabbing into this one or jumping into it. But in that one, you're basically kind of like, you're fighting regularly military troops. This one you are too. You're fighting, regular military guys as well. But in that one, it's sort of a slow build before things start getting a little alien and a little bit weird. Whereas this one kind of throws you right into that conflict, right into that point where it's like, whoa, okay, there are, you know, all kinds of weird alien things going on. You've got, you know, a big invasion happening, and they're kind of almost really confident, these aliens. They're coming in, they're blasting things, they're putting up these towers, these dangerous towers. You know, they're causing a lot of problems for people, and there's like this disease that's ravaging the local population too that you get to get some insight into. So there's like some mystery in how things are being handled, but there's this really cool split between a military presence, the cell, and then, you know, these alien creatures, and you get kind of thrown into almost throughway fights sometimes, which I think are really interesting to kind of see play out in terms of the combat. I mean, I find that to be kind of fascinating in any game scenario where it's kind of like three-way battle. I always think that's really cool. Now, the enemy forces do seem to kind of work together against you once you enter the fray, but you can kind of almost like slink through here, and that's where I'm saying, like, it's kind of cool to have these stealth segments, because you can kind of be like, okay, I want to do this with the stealth approach. I just wish that the stealth was a little bit more easygoing, because I do feel that, you know, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. When you do one stealth assassination, your shields run out, and you know, you might not even be visible, but everyone's like, oh, there he is, and, you know, it's kind of like, it's a little too accurate and knowledgeable as to where you are, and I think that takes away, you know, some of the fun of trying to set up a stealth scenario. And it just seemed like every single time I tried to use stealth, that immediately it would become, you know, some sort of war battle, right? It just wasn't, you know, it just wasn't too well suited for the stealth approach. At least from what I played on this one, the scenarios just didn't seem to quite give me those choices. It seemed like they were hyper-aware. And there are multiple difficulty options in the game. You can find lots of collectibles and different things within the environment that you can gather. But like I said, it's very linear. It's got a good selection of levels to it. You know, you can play quite a bit of it and have some fun with it. You know, it's got some smoother gameplay, keeping in mind, you know, the first Crysis was really meant to kind of bend the will of PCs at its time. It, you know, even today it's still got some like really pushing tech behind it, whereas the sequels, you know, the second one, the third one, were more designed with the consoles in mind. So you're almost still seeing the limitations of that today in terms of how, you know, the environments are crafted, how they're designed. It plays well. It's fun. It's kind of cool. Lots of responsive stuff. Like, you can pick up all kinds of crap. There's like, you know, I guess you could say like bricks or a bed or something. You can pick this stuff up and kind of chuck it at people. You feel like a super soldier. You feel like you can do some real damage, which is kind of cool. You can smash things, and it's kind of neat that way. And there's a kind of a reactive environment to a degree. You know, and it's just really nice that this seems to play really well, and for the most part, the clarity and the visual, like just the visual quality of this looks really, really nice. Like, the upgraded textures are fantastic. You know, the smoothness of the play feels really good. As you're going through the environment, it feels really good. You know, you don't really need to adjust anything too much for the settings. I did get told by the developers that you should increase the sensitivity a little bit, and I thought that was a really intriguing thing to mention, as I've never had that kind of mentioned to me. But they're like, you should adjust the sensitivity a little bit, you might find that to be a little bit better. And yeah, just kind of some neat scenarios and setups in that regard that I think kind of play into what feels like a really good experience, something that is, you know, kind of fun and kind of neat. And like I said, if you like the first Crysis, I think you're going to find value in this one as well. And I think if you are revisiting this one, it's probably been a bit of time, so you might actually be impressed with some of the upgrades that have been made here in regards to like just the visual quality and the play of the game. But again, you might not necessarily want to dive in for a second time. I don't know how alluring that will be for many people, but if you're coming in for your first time, you know, it's a pretty decently lengthy sort of shooter. It's got a neat sort of story to it. It's got some different dynamics, especially coming off of the first game. You're going to be like, oh wow, they really went in a different direction with some things, and they really lean into that whole alien threat type of thing, and I think that's kind of fun, kind of unique, and just interesting. Now, I know we are limited to what this is, but you are going to definitely feel, again, that limitation of that era where these environments aren't necessarily really expansive or anything like that. Like the first game, you know, those gave you a lot of room for playing around, whereas this one, it is much, much more linear. Like I said, you get some scenarios where you could be like, okay, I'm going this way or I'm going that way, but ultimately you kind of always move in the same direction. There's always this certain point, you're almost just running through these different levels, and it's just like at the end of the level it just ends. You get basically like no loading or anything, it's just instant. There's like these little cinematic kind of bits at the end of levels which you can kind of listen to, get some context and stuff going on, but you know, you kind of feel like you're just dashing through the experience almost in terms of how fast everything kind of moves, especially with the suit. And again, I love the suit dynamics are really, really interesting in this franchise, and they have some fun with them in different ways. And you're kind of seeing this kind of pop up here. So I think, you know, like I mentioned, you're going to feel that era of its time kind of feeling, but at the same time you might find this to be an engaging story that you can kind of work through and be like, oh, that's cool, and oh, interesting, and, you know, getting those sort of secrets wrapped up or finding out what comes next. If you're coming from the first Crysis, you'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is really interesting. What a plot change, especially in regards to the character sort of shift that's present. I mean, when I played it, I was like, oh, wow, that's quite a different sort of thing. I wasn't seeing that coming, but it seems to work, and I think it actually has a bit of a unique conclusion and or later part of the game. I think kind of how everything comes together, it's kind of intriguing and different. So to continue to talk about the visuals of the game, like I said, I really like how this looks. It's quite impressive. You get a good draw distance, you get well-rendered buildings. You feel like you're in a New York setting, if that makes sense. You feel like you're, you know, just a super soldier kind of running through, you know, this taken landscape, this really populated area that's just kind of been, you know, invaded. And there's like the soldiers trying to do what they can, and you're kind of a target for them, and then there's the aliens and, you know, all those kind of creatures going around, and it's just kind of causing mayhem for you as you're just roaming throughout this area. There's a little bits of like kind of platforming, but that's mostly just getting to another area to shoot some more people. They're not too expansive, but you get to see the different heights. Like some levels you're, you know, on the top of these skyscrapers and you're going down, or you might be climbing along like a skywalk, and there might be people on the ground, and there might be little bits of vehicle play here or there too. You know, that's kind of like a bit of a thing for the Crysis series, is, hey, you know, there's some vehicle play. But most of it is running around as a soldier on foot with this technologically advanced set of options as you annihilate your opponents and try to survive as long as you can in order to battle another day and kind of reach the end point. I should also mention that the checkpoints can be a little brutal in this one, so keep that in mind. I mean, it loads fast, so it's not like a huge deal. You get back into the action quickly, but you know, some of the checkpoints can be a little hardcore to deal with, which isn't going to be, you know, the best for that scenario. But I think it's, you know, an intriguing sort of experience. If you're coming from the first remaster, just rest easy. This one runs and looks way better, as I hope you've been seeing this whole time. And I think it continues the story in a neat way that you might find intriguing. If you are revisiting, you know, you're going to have to sit there and think of, oh, this was, you know, what you thought of it the first time. Do you want to revisit that? Because there's not anything necessarily massively changed. You know, I think you're going to fall into either of those camps. If you're completely fresh and you just want to play this one for whatever reason, I would kind of be like, maybe go play the first one now and then jump into this. But I guess you could jump into this game and you wouldn't necessarily feel as if you're missing anything from the first game. They kind of explain it really well, and they kind of give you the gist of it really fast as you play the game. So you could jump in freshly to this one, but I think if you want the full Crysis story, you should work through 1 to 3, just so you can get the difference of gameplay. So anyways, it's kind of cool. I don't have many other details to say about this one. You know, obviously the multiplayer is gone. That would have been cool to see remastered, but how would they do it? Doing like a package, right? You'd have to like combine 2 and 3's multiplayer, and that would be weird. And how many players would that attract? I don't know. But anyways, that's Crysis 2 Remastered. Kind of cool. Enjoy some extra gameplay if you'd like, but I don't have any other details to really talk about it. It's looking good, playing well. They did a good job remastering this one, and I'm actually quite impressed.
Oversight 6 and 7, I have your kill confirmed. Hold station. We're coming in.
Prophet, you see that? You see that? Must have gone down less than a block from where you are. You do realize what this means, right? This is our chance. This is it. Forget extraction. We have to jump on this. Go get samples from the crash. Get them to me here at the lab. This could be our best shot at rolling back the spore. Maybe the whole invasion even. But you better make it fast. Lockhart's going to have cells swarming all over that crash site and nothing flat. Watch your ass, Prophet.
Reach the crash site and obtain xeno tissue extract for gold. Slide underneath trucks and obstacles to quickly change positions and lose pursuers. Customize your weapon to adapt to new combats. Mount silencers on weapons to avoid being detected. Tactical options available.
Under fire!
Engaged.
We are under attack!
Looks like they bailed before impact. Check the escape pods. We're looking for tissue samples, dead crew, anything like that.
Examine the alien pods.
You there? Prophet? You have to get inside there and sample the wreckage. We're looking for dead crew, any genetic material you can find.
Find a way into the wreckage.
Oversight! This is Blue Actual requesting immediate evac!
Your orders are clear, Blue Section. Secure your sector and find that Nanosuit. Air support is inbound. Hold firm.
Target site. Engage. All right, you're in. Run a scan of the hull.
Find a way into the wreckage. Analyze the biological material.
Oh, Jesus. That's human tissue. It's people. People just melted down. Look, without actual alien body tissue, we're wasting our time. Just get out of there.